is dead.
I'm here now. I'm doing the best I can. But are you now? It's your dreams come true. Here we What does the word you see? Should only be a smile on your face. Answer me where is the God? The sun rises again. When will that time return? Swear you won't give up. Break out. Anything starts. Save it back and let me know. Never sin. Break out. Make my story. Get down. They call history. My heart beat. Beat faster. Shout, 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 shout. Destiny. Dead. I don't care which one's walking this way. What if I go back to zero? All men, one man at the time of one decision. Storm, illusion, vision. One should only your days. Light in darkness, light is beyond the lights. Now obey your ways. You can do it. To the top of the world.
I believe the first time I ever played Tekken 5 was in my gaming club back in high school. Me and another guy named Bobby were the only Tekken fans in the whole club. He was a year ahead of me, and when he graduated, he gave me his copy of Tekken 5 as a parting gift. When I got my hands on it, I was amazed at how packed it was, on top of it being the best playing Tekken since 3. I think that Tekken 5 is just as important as Tekken 3, and in this video, I'll explain why. In terms of gameplay, Tekken 5 is Tekken 3 on steroids. It's faster and more fluid than ever before. None of the weird control systems for 4 are here, as sidestepping, jumping, and longer combos are front and center. Also, there's a new crush system which allows characters to dodge certain moves with a move of their own. The stages have also been revamped too, as many of the stages are flat with some kind of wall or boundary. There are still a few infinite floor stages out there, with one of them being arguably one of the best stages ever in Tekken to date. This would also be the only Tekken to ever get an updated re-release called Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection. Dark Resurrection got released on the PSP and was eventually ported to the PS3. It added 3 characters to the roster, 2 newcomers and 2 returning fighters, plus some extra modes not available in the base game. It is basically the super turbo of Tekken 5. So that's the story on a technical end, but what about the actual story? Tekken 5 takes place immediately after Tekken 4, and by immediately I mean like 5 minutes after Jin bounces. G-Corp sends a bunch of Jack 4 robots to attack Kazuya and Heihachi. Surprisingly, the two work together against the Jack 4s until Kazuya does what a Mishima does best and fuck over the nearest person to them. Kazuya leaves and Heihachi gets blown up by the Jack robots. Somewhere, a mysterious man named Raven reports that
Heihachi Mishima is dead.
And pause. There's not going to be a running gag here. I'm not going to pretend that Heihachi is actually dead. Namco barely kept it a secret, so why should I? Heihachi is playable in all versions of Tekken 5.
So that was a fucking lie.
Meanwhile, Jin blacks out and wakes up in a destroyed forest and figures out that it was caused by his waning control of the Devil Gene. While all this is happening, this asshole is wrecking a bunch of martial arts schools, and this chick is pissed about it. Plus, all the other bullshit that's going on. Plus, somebody starts another King of Iron Fist tournament at the Zaibatsu while Heihachi was, quote-unquote, dead. Let's talk about the roster. We got about 33 characters to go through here, so let's get cracking.
Jin Kazama.
Jin is losing control of his Devil Gene. He senses that whoever is behind this tournament may be tied to his Devil Gene. So, he enters to find out the origin of the curse and end it.
Kazuya Mishima.
When Kazuya hears about the tournament, he enters for a chance to get revenge on Jin and anybody else who stood in his way.
Heihachi Mishima.
Heihachi Mishima is alive. He just got blown away by the explosion. After he recovers, he hears about the tournament and heads out to reclaim the Zaibatsu.
Huaden.
Huarong is arrested and taken back home where he finishes up his military. Once he's free, he enters the tournament to face Jin again at the behest of his master, Beck.
Ling Xiaoyu.
Xiaoyu was sad about Heihachi's alleged death and believed that if she could go back in time, she could save the Mishimas. So, when she hears about a scientist who might be able to make a working time machine with enough money, she enters the tournament to win enough money to do so. Yes, this is literally her story.
Asuka Kazama.
A relative of Jin and June. When her father's dojo gets attacked and he gets injured, Asuka learns from Lei that the man who did it is entering the tournament, so she enters as well.
Fang Wei.
A martial artist with an unquenchable thirst for strength. His desire was so great that he killed his own master and abandoned his dojo. Now he goes around attacking other dojos to test his strength. His next test will be the King of Iron Fist tournament, where he hopes to find an ancient scroll that may give him the power he longs for.
Wang Jinrei.
Wang was once a friend of Jinpachi Mishima, Heihachi's father. Jinpachi once told him, in order to bring peace, the Mishima clan must be destroyed. Several years later, Wang gets an invitation to the tournament and a message from Jinpachi asking for help. Wang enters the tournament to seek him out.
Bruce Irvin.
After the second tournament, Bruce worked as a mercenary. When news of Kazuya's return reached him, he decides to enter the new tournament to see what's up.
Li Chaolan.
Lee is mad that he always gets bested by Kazuya, so he enters the tournament to get another shot at him.
Ganryu.
Ganryu has established a sumo dojo in Hawaii. One day, he sees footage of Julia from the last tournament and is reminded of Michelle, and he instantly falls in love with her. He enters the tournament believing that if he can win and get her lost data for her, then she will love him too.
Martial Law.
Martial Law's son Forrest gets into a bad motorcycle accident and is loaded down with even more debt. So, he enters the tournament to win some prize money.
Paul Phoenix.
Paul's loss in the tournament made him realize that he'd become overconfident and strayed from the path. He trains vigorously for the upcoming tournament so he can prove himself once again.
Julia Chang.
Julia is still trying to recover the data for the reforestation project that her team worked on. So, she enters this tournament to try again.
Nina Williams.
To regain her lost memories, she visits her sister again. This triggers memories of her hostilities toward her sister. Then a shootout took place over a few days, ending in a stalemate. They both enter the tournament to settle the score.
Anna Williams.
Nina's sister. Remember what I just read? She was there.
Mokujin.
Once again, humanity is being threatened by a malevolent force and has reawakened Mokujin as a result.
Roger Jr.
The son of a genetically modified fighting kangaroo. When Roger disappears, he enters the tournament to find him, while also in his mother's pouch.
Kuma.
Kuma was saddened by the alleged death of his master and worried about the uncertain future of the Zaibatsu. So he enters the tournament to reclaim it in honor of Heihachi.
Panda.
Xiao Yu is in the tournament, so Panda enters too. Enough said.
Pektosan.
Beck got attacked and put into a coma for about a year. He awakens in a military base and eventually teaches Taekwondo there. It is here where he reconnects with Huarong and they both enter the tournament together.
Raven.
An intelligence agent whose origin is shrouded in mystery. He enters the tournament to find out the real cause behind everything.
Brian Fury.
When Brian awakened from Boscanovich's surgery, he mercilessly slaughters several Manjin clan members and leaves. He enters the tournament to test his new upgrades.
Yoshimitsu.
Yoshimitsu rushed to the aid of his Manji clan members against Brian's onslaught, but was unable to prevent some serious losses. He now enters the tournament to bring Brian to justice.
Eddie Gordo.
Eddie's master has become terminally ill after being released from prison. He enters the tournament with hopes of using the Zaibatsu's vast resources to find a cure.
Christy Montero.
Her grandfather is terminally ill, and she decides to enter a tournament alongside Eddie to increase their chances of winning.
Steve Fox.
Steve learned that he was the product of the Zaibatsu's experiments. When he learns the next tournament, he enters to destroy the Zaibatsu once and for all.
Lei Wulong.
Lei has been investigating a series of dojo attacks across China. After the culprit resurfaced at a dojo in Japan, he realizes that the culprit's next target would be at the tournament, so he enters.
King.
King was going to kill Marduk at the hospital, but he felt that his desire for revenge was foolish and left. When Marduk challenges him for a rematch in the next tournament, he accepts.
Craig Marduk.
King hospitalized him from their fight in the last tournament. When he recovers, he enters the next tournament and challenges King to a rematch.
Jack 5.
When Jane tries to sneak into a Mishima facility, Gunjack was destroyed by the Tekken Force as she escaped and was rescued by G-Corp. Now working for their robotics division, she developed Jack 4 and used that as a basis for Jack 5. With Jack 5 now complete, Jane enters him in the tournament to test his ability.
Lily,
The daughter of an oil tycoon, she was abducted one day but managed to free herself and take out one of her attackers. This unlocks her lust for combat, and she enters the tournament to fight people and to take on the Zaibatsu for interfering with her father's business.
Sergei Dragunov,
A Spetsnaz member and a man of 0 words. His superiors order him to enter the tournament to find Devil Jin.
Armor King,
Somebody has taken up the mantle of Armor King. Who is he, and where did he come from? All that's known is that he's after the man who killed his brother. So that is the full roster minus 2 characters, but I'll save those guys for later. What we have here is possibly the biggest roster to date, but everybody didn't make it back. June and Boskonovich are still absent and will be for a bit longer. It's fine though, because we have more than enough fighters to choose from, and just as many modes to choose from as well. All the Tekken staples are here, but let's talk about the new stuff. First up is Arcade History. In this mode, you can play the arcade versions of the first 3 Tekken games. Shut the front door. And these are basically arcade perfect versions of the games on top of the full roster being available at the start. So if you get Tekken 5, you automatically get 3 games on top of that. Well, 4 if you count Starblade. It's a fucking steal. This also remains one of the rare times that Tekken 3 gets a re-release in some form. The other time was in that PS1 classic, but we don't talk about that shit around here. The other mode of note is Devil Within, which is this game's take on Tekken Force mode. In this mode, you play as Jin across 5 stages as he tries to uncover the origin of his Devil Gene. Luckily, this mode plays much better than 4's Tekken Force mode, simply because you can fight on flat surfaces and control your camera. Controls are simple here, so you have a punch combo, a kick combo, a guard button, and a jump. Yeah, there's a bit of platforming in this mode. Nothing too crazy, but it's worth a mention. So you run and fight and jump around, and as you're doing all this, your meter fills up. And once it's full, you can do this. Holy shit, you can be Devil Jin. If you press L1 plus triangle, you can transform into Devil Jin, which will give you an attack boost but will drain your health over time. You can't spam it, but you couldn't do it anyway because of the meter. So I don't know what they were going for here. At the end of each level, you fight a different boss, and unlike Tekken Force mode in 3 or 4, you fight a unique version of Tekken characters, like a souped up version of Gunjack or a Heihachi clone. It all ends with a fight between a stronger form of True Ogre who's traded his snake arm for a shark head. Anyway, you beat him, and you beat Devil Within. Now, one would think here that this is canon, and I've come to inform you that I don't fucking know. And also, Namco doesn't know either. The game says it takes place after Heihachi gets blown up. The website says it takes place during Tekken 5. Devil Within never gets referenced in Jin's story mode or in later games, so I guess it doesn't matter. What does matter is the character that you unlock for beating it. Holy shit, you can play as Devil Jin! This marks the first time that he's playable in a Tekken game. He's basically Tekken's answer to Evil Ryu, but he ends up being a part of the main roster from here on in. So, you're playing these modes and you probably noticed this number go up here. It looks like currency because it is currency. Currency that you will use for the other new mode, customization mode. It's exactly what you think it is. You use in-game currency to buy alternate colors, accessories, or costumes for characters across the roster. It's a great incentive to keep playing long after you complete Story Battle in Devil Within. However, if you're coming in spoiled from the customization modes in later games, you're going to be disappointed, as there aren't as many costume and accessory options to get here. Plus, you must buy your alt colors as opposed to them being free in later games. Also, the shit is expensive as hell. So that's all the modes in regular Tekken, but what do you get in Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection? Unfortunately, you lose out on arcade history and Devil Within. Both of these modes are replaced by Tekken Dojo and online multiplayer, which is understandable since there was no way in hell the PSP could handle all that on top of running a regular Tekken 5. Tekken Dojo is a story mode of sorts where you choose a character and fight opponents until you increase your rank and advance to the next dojo. Elements of this mode will return in later games, albeit without the story and the map. We've covered so much ground already, but we just have a bit more to go through. Now it's time to talk about the tournament. Lily was defeated by Asuka, and when her father found out that she was out fighting, she got grounded. Jack 5 gets good data from the tournament, and Jane uses it to improve Jack. King and Marduk somehow became friends after their fight. Later, Marduk gets attacked by the second Armor King. King tries to find him but is unsuccessful. Lei was unable to find Fang and had to return home for another assignment. Steve manages to find a Mishima research facility and proceeds to burn that mother down. Eddie and Christy were unable to win the tournament. Brian was unable to fully test his powers thanks to Yoshimitsu's interference. Yoshimitsu was unable to fully pursue Brian because of an imbalance within his sword. Raven finds out that Heihachi is alive and fights him until he gets called back by his superiors. Kuma fights Paul again, but loses in a close bout. Roger Jr. and his mom find out that Roger bailed on him. Roger's mom divorces his ass. Nina defeats Anna once again. Ganryu stumbles upon the data that Julia needs and gives it to her, but he gets rejected anyway. While fighting in the tournament, Law gets deported to the United States for working illegally in Japan. Xiaoyu and Panda bounce when they learn that Heihachi isn't dead. Kazuya fights Raven and learns from him that G-Corp sent those jacks after him. He leads the tournament alongside Bruce to get revenge on G-Corp. Dragunov was unable to find Devil Jin. Warong defeats Jin, but the Devil Gene awakens within Jin, and he attacks and seriously injures Warong. Beck withdraws from the tournament to help his student. Asuka was unable to find Fang at the tournament. Fang found the scroll he was looking for by stealing it from a Mishima vault. Wong did well in the tournament, but he was defeated by Jin. Wait, who's even sponsoring this shit? Well, might as well get into it right now. The sponsor of the tournament is none other than Jinpachi Mishima. But wait, he's dead. Wong was pouring sake on his grave in Tekken 2, right? Here's what happened. Heihachi stole the Zaibatsu from Jinpachi. Jinpachi tried to fight back, was defeated and imprisoned under Hanmaru, where he died of starvation and got possessed by an evil entity, possibly the Devil Gene. When the Jack robots blew up Hanmaru, Jinpachi and his devil were released, and Jinpachi returned the Zaibatsu, took over, and started another tournament, with the hopes of somebody defeating him before the evil takes him over completely. When Lee finds out that Heihachi or Kazuya isn't behind the tournament, he loses interest and quits. Eventually, it all comes down to the final match between Jin and his great-grandfather.
貴様、誰じゃ?
俺は風待ち。呪われた血を継ぐ者だ。
なるほど。それでわしの血もこうして反応してるというわけか。お前を食らおうとな。
悪しき血は俺の手で立つ。
貴様にそれができるのか。このわしを倒す資格があるのか。
Final round. Fight. You win.
Jin defeats Jinpachi, wins the tournament, and becomes leader of the Mishima Zaibatsu. Wow, that was probably my favorite ending to a King of Iron Fist tournament ever. It's only fitting that Tekken 5 go out on a high note. Tekken 5 is the total package. I honestly forgotten how good it is. Even though they have their differences, you can't go wrong with either version of Tekken 5. Tekken 4 may not have had the reception Namco was expecting, and that might be why 5 goes so hard. Or maybe it's the fact that Tekken was on its 10th anniversary when 5 was released. Game companies tend to celebrate milestones in a big way, after all. And that is the PS2 Tekken trilogy. Namco always finds a way to end these things on a strong note. Tekken 6 is going to be crazy. Like, Jin has control of the Zaibatsu now. He's gonna change it for the better and bring justice to Kazuya and Heihachi while he's at it. He truly is the hero of Tekken.